Master the art of reading people without saying a word. That's not just a skill, that's a power. Because every single day, you're surrounded by people telling you one thing, while their eyes, their hands, their posture are telling you the truth. Words are easy. Anyone can dress them up, twist them around, hide behind them. But the body is honest. It betrays what the mouth is trying to conceal. And when you learn to see that truth, you move differently in this world. Think about it. You walk into a room, and before a single word is spoken, energy has already spoken. That man tapping his foot like a drumbeat, he's impatient, anxious. That woman with her arms crossed tight against her chest, she's not closed off because of you, she's protecting herself from something else. The one who can't look you in the eye, he's carrying a weight. When you learn to read people, you're not just looking at them, you're seeing them. And when you see people clearly, you can't be fooled. This world will test you. It will test your patience, your instincts, your spirit. People will come smiling in your face with hidden motives in their pockets. Some will clap for you in public and plot against you in private. And if you're only listening to their words, you'll fall for the mask. But if you learn to hear the silence behind their words, if you learn to watch the way they move, the way their eyes shift, the way their shoulders rise, you'll know who's real and who's wearing a disguise. Silence is loud, stillness speaks. The truth doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers in a glance, a pause, a hesitation. You can't rush to judge what you see. You have to study it. Just like a musician studies the notes, just like a painter studies the canvas, you study people. Because the moment you master this, you hold an advantage most people will never have. And here's the secret. People are always telling on themselves, even when they think they're not. Their hands give them away. Their eyes tell the story. Their tone betrays their emotions. Watch closely, and you'll see when confidence is real and when it's an act. You'll see who's sincere and who's rehearsed. You'll see who believes in themselves and who's trembling beneath the surface. Life is not about hearing everything that's said. It's about understanding everything that's not. Reading people is not about judging them. It's about knowing where they stand and where you stand with them. It's about protecting your spirit, guarding your energy, and navigating a world that won't always announce its intentions. When you master this art, you don't just walk into a room, you command it. You don't just meet people, you understand them before they even open their mouths. And once you understand, you can move with wisdom, with strength, with clarity. Silence reveals more truth than words ever can. When someone speaks, they can choose their vocabulary, they can rehearse their tone, they can polish their sentences until they sound like a performance. But silence, that gap between words, that stillness between movements, that hesitation before a reply, it carries the weight of authenticity. You can tell a lot about a person not by what they say, but by what they choose not to say, and by how their body reacts in those unscripted moments. In silence, the mask slips, the performance breaks, and the real truth leaks through like light sneaking past a closed curtain. Think about the way silence feels in a conversation. When you ask someone a question, and there is that pause before they answer, that pause is louder than the words that follow. It reveals uncertainty. It reveals conflict. Sometimes it reveals guilt. A confident person doesn't need to stall before giving you their truth. But when the silence hangs in the air, when the eyes shift to the floor, when the throat is cleared unnecessarily, that silence is telling you something the mouth cannot. That is the truth most people miss, because they rush to fill the quiet with their own words instead of listening to the message hiding in the quiet. Silence also has a way of revealing emotions that words try to disguise. You can hear sorrow in the silence of someone who has lost their joy. You can feel anger in the heavy pause before an outburst. You can sense fear in the breath someone holds back when they're confronted. Even love speaks in silence when two people sit together and say nothing yet understand everything. Silence is not empty. It is layered, textured, filled with unspoken communication that is more honest than anything spoken aloud. To read people without saying a word, you must learn to listen not only with your ears, but with your entire presence. The most skilled observers know that silence often reveals the power dynamics in a room. The one who stays quiet, watching, listening, is often the one with the advantage. The loudest voice may seem in control, but many times it is the one who doesn't feel the need to explain themselves, the one who measures every word, who is truly holding the authority. Watch closely and you'll see that silence itself can be a weapon, a way to unnerve, a way to expose. When someone is silent in the face of lies, they're allowing the liar to dig deeper, to reveal themselves further. When someone refuses to respond to provocation, that silence is not weakness. It's strategy, it's discipline, it's strength. Silence also teaches you to notice the small things that words cover up. The micro expressions on a person's face, the slight twitch of the lips, the tightening of the jaw, the widening of the eyes. None of these are loud, none of these are dramatic, but they scream the truth if you know how to read them. Silence gives you the chance to see what's hidden in plain sight, because without the noise of constant speech, your awareness sharpens, your focus deepens. In silence, you notice the heartbeat of human behavior. In many ways, silence is universal. Across cultures, across languages, the way people react in silence is strikingly similar. Nervous laughter, a sudden inhale, a shifting gaze. These are not bound by borders, they are bound by humanity. The unspoken language of silence allows you to understand someone even if you don't share their spoken language. It bridges gaps, it strips away pretenses, it speaks to the core of human truth. There is a reason why silence can make people uncomfortable. It exposes what they would rather keep hidden. It leaves them standing face to face with themselves, with no distraction, no escape, no convenient words to shield them. And that's why, if you pay attention, silence will tell you more than words ever will. It reveals fear, it reveals confidence, it reveals intent. It shows you what someone values and what they are desperate to conceal. Body language never lies, even when the mouth does. A person can carefully craft the sentences they want to use. They can disguise their tone with sweetness. They can rehearse their answers like an actor preparing for a role. But the body, the movements that escape unconsciously, the posture that shifts without permission, the gestures that leak out when emotions rise, those are honest. They don't go through the filter of thought. They don't have the time to dress themselves up. They spill out raw, uncontrolled, and unpolished. And that is why they reveal the truth every single time. Look at the eyes. They are the first betrayers. Someone can tell you that they're confident, but if their eyes dart around the room, searching for an exit, they've already confessed their uncertainty. Someone can say they're not afraid, but when their pupils dilate, when their blink rate speeds up, the body is screaming what the words are trying to deny. Eyes are windows, and they open whether the person wants them to or not. Watch the hands. Words may say one thing, but hands tell another story. A person gripping their own fingers tightly may insist they're calm, yet their body reveals their tension. Someone might fold their arms and swear it's just comfortable, but that wall they're building is protection, a shield against exposure. Nervous fidgeting, scratching the neck, adjusting clothing unnecessarily. These are signals the body sends out when it's wrestling with discomfort. You don't need the words if you can decode the movements. Pay attention to the posture. You can see the truth in the way a person sits or stands. Shoulders rolled back, chin lifted, feet planted firmly. Those belong to someone grounded, assured. Slouched posture, shifting weight from one foot to the other, arms hanging heavy. Those belong to someone uncertain, someone hesitant. The body takes the shape of the emotions it carries. Even when the mouth tries to deny insecurity, the body bends under the weight of it. The truth is that lies require effort, and effort shows itself physically. When someone lies, they have to remember the details, they have to construct the story, they have to maintain control of their voice. But while the mouth is focused on that task, the body often slips. A micro expression flashes across the face, a smirk, a twitch, a tightening of the lips. The lie escapes not in the words, but in the uncontrollable movements that the liar doesn't even realize they're making. That is why body language is more trustworthy than any speech. There is also power in mirroring. Notice how honest connections often create similar body language. When two people trust each other, they lean in the same way, they mirror each other's gestures, they breathe in rhythm. But when deceit is present, that harmony breaks. The body of the liar resists alignment. They may lean away, cross their arms, keep a subtle distance. They might say they agree, but their body refuses to follow suit. That mismatch between words and body is the crack where the truth slips out. It's not only in deception that body language speaks. It reveals desire, fear, admiration, envy, respect. Someone leaning in just a little closer than necessary, someone touching their face when they see someone they admire, someone shrinking back in the presence of authority. All of these are truths expressed without a single word. And unlike spoken language, which can be manipulated, these physical signals are spontaneous, instinctual, deeply human. The most powerful communicators in history have known this. They understood that what they said mattered, but how they carried themselves mattered more. People remember how you made them feel, and body language is the silent engine behind that feeling. Stand tall, and you project confidence. Make eye contact, and you show strength. Keep your movements steady, and you radiate control. Every gesture sends a message, and those messages last longer than the echo of your words. To read people without saying a word, you must train yourself to see these signals. Don't just hear what they're saying. Watch what their body is confessing. Notice the contradiction between their words and their stance, their tone and their gaze, their statement and their movement. The mouth can lie all day long, but the body, sooner or later, tells the truth. Energy in a room speaks before a voice is heard. The moment you step into a space, before anyone introduces themselves, before a single word is exchanged, you feel it. The air carries a weight, a vibration, a pulse that tells you more than formal greetings ever could. Some rooms feel alive, charged with confidence and certainty, while others feel heavy, tense, filled with unspoken conflict. That is energy. It's invisible, but it's undeniable. Your body senses it even when your mind hasn't caught up. Every person carries an energy signature with them. It's written in the way they walk into a space, the way they hold themselves, the rhythm of their breathing, the intensity of their gaze. Someone who walks in with scattered energy leaves a trail of chaos behind them, even if they smile politely. Someone with calm, grounded energy changes the atmosphere without speaking a word. When you pay attention, you realize you're not just interacting with words. You're interacting with frequencies, with emotions, with silent messages that linger in the air. Think of the last time you walked into a room after two people had argued. Nobody had to tell you what happened, but you knew. The silence felt heavier, the air almost electric with unresolved tension. That's the power of energy. It lingers. It shapes the way people behave, the way they communicate, the way they respond. Even laughter carries energy. Some laughter lifts the whole room, while some feels hollow, forced, an attempt to cover discomfort. Learning to read energy means you see beyond the surface performance and into the truth of the atmosphere. Pay attention to the subtle shifts when people enter or exit a space. A leader who carries respect doesn't need to announce themselves. The moment they walk in, the energy adjusts. Conversations slow down, heads turn. Attention is naturally drawn toward them. On the other hand, someone who carries insecurity or resentment brings a different vibration, and suddenly people around them feel uneasy without knowing why. This is why energy speaks first. It doesn't ask for permission, it doesn't wait for words, it announces itself in silence. Your own energy plays a role too. The way you carry yourself is a message that others receive before you ever open your mouth. If you walk in nervous and unsure, people feel it instantly. If you walk in with steady confidence, people sense your authority without you having to demand it. That's why mastering your own energy is just as important as reading the energy of others. When you command your inner state, you influence the outer atmosphere. Energy doesn't lie. You can pretend to smile, you can rehearse kind words, but if you are holding anger inside, people feel it. If you're insecure, no matter how many compliments you give, the weight of your doubt bleeds through. Children are a perfect example of this awareness. They may not understand complex language, but they react instantly to energy. A child knows when someone is genuine and when they are not, because they feel the difference. Adults lose touch with that instinct, but it can be sharpened again if you choose to listen to the signals in the silence. Energy reveals alliances and divisions. Watch a group of people, and you'll notice the subtle pull between those who trust each other and those who don't. You'll see the way bodies angle towards certain individuals and away from others. You'll sense the current of respect or the undercurrent of jealousy. Even when everyone in the room is smiling, energy will show you who feels threatened, who feels superior, who feels invisible. Learning to read energy is about tuning yourself to the unspoken frequency of human presence. It's about noticing when the laughter doesn't match the eyes, when the conversation doesn't match the posture, when the tone doesn't match the atmosphere. Once you learn to recognize these layers, you'll see that communication is happening long before words ever enter the air. Observation is the shield against deception. In a world where words can be twisted, where appearances can be carefully crafted, and where intentions are often hidden behind polished smiles, your greatest defense is not what you say, but what you see. The art of watching, of paying close attention, of catching the details others miss. This is what separates those who are fooled from those who stand protected. Observation allows you to see past the performance, past the rehearsed lines, and into the truth that a person cannot completely conceal. When you truly observe, you don't just glance, you study. You notice the difference between what someone says and how they act. You hear their words, but you also see the slight hesitation before they speak them. You notice the way their eyes move when they're under pressure, the way their voice shifts when they're unsure, the way their body leans when they're hiding something. Observation is not passive. It is active, deliberate, focused. It requires patience, discipline, and awareness. Most people are too distracted, too absorbed in their own thoughts, too eager to talk. But the one who observes quietly gains an advantage because they collect truths that others overlook. Deception thrives in distraction. Liars depend on the fact that people won't pay attention to the cracks in their story. They count on the assumption that no one is watching closely enough to notice the mismatch between their words and their behavior. But when you sharpen your observation, deception loses its power. You catch the inconsistency in the timeline, the unnecessary detail that reveals anxiety, the nervous gesture that slips through their practiced composure. You realize that people reveal themselves constantly, not by intention, but by accident, and the one who observes catches those accidents. Observation also means noticing what is missing, not just what is present. Sometimes the greatest truths are in the silence, in the details someone avoids, in the questions they don't answer, in the stories they don't tell. People often reveal themselves by omission, and only an attentive eye will pick up on it. When you train yourself to pay attention to not only what's said, but also to what's left unsaid, you protect yourself from being blindsided. The shield of observation doesn't only protect you from lies, it also protects you from misplaced trust. Not everyone who smiles in your face is on your side. Not everyone who agrees with you has your best interest at heart. But if you observe long enough, patterns emerge. The small glances, the tone of their laughter, the way they react when your name is mentioned, those details tell you whether someone's loyalty is genuine or an illusion. Words can declare friendship, but observation reveals intention. Being observant doesn't mean being suspicious of everyone. It means being aware. It means recognizing that people's actions carry more weight than their statements. A promise is empty if it's not matched by behavior. A declaration of love, respect, or loyalty is meaningless if the body language and energy contradict it. Observation trains you to see through the fog of charm, to identify when something doesn't align, to notice when the puzzle pieces don't fit together. The sharpest observers aren't loud, they aren't constantly questioning, they aren't looking for conflict. They watch, they listen, they remember, and because they do, they carry a natural shield against manipulation. Deception thrives where people are blind, but it falters when faced with someone who sees clearly. Observation keeps you one step ahead, protecting you from falling for the trap of appearances and guiding you toward the truth hiding underneath the performance. Mastering this art gives you power, clarity, and control. Power, not in the sense of domination, but in the sense of influence. The kind of power that comes from truly understanding people before they even speak. When you can read someone's intentions, emotions, and hidden motives through silence, body language, and energy, You move through the world with an advantage that most people don't even realize exists. Clarity becomes your companion because instead of relying on the surface of what people say, you see the deeper layers of what they mean. And control becomes natural because when you know the truth, you don't get swept away by illusions or deceived by appearances. Power begins with awareness. The one who can read people accurately doesn't stumble blindly into situations, they anticipate them. They can sense tension before it erupts. They can detect dishonesty before it unfolds, and they can feel sincerity before it's proven. That ability makes you a stronger leader, a sharper negotiator, and a more grounded individual. People may not understand how you see what you see, but they'll respect the way you navigate situations with precision. It's not luck, it's the result of mastering observation, silence, and energy. Clarity is the second gift of mastering this art. In a world clouded with noise, where everyone is talking but very few are truly communicating, clarity separates the wise from the naive. Words often blur reality, but the unspoken tells the truth. When you learn to read the truth, you're no longer confused by contradictions. You can see when someone's enthusiasm is real or when it's forced. You know when agreement comes from sincerity and when it comes from fear. You recognize when respect is genuine and when it's only an act. That clarity sharpens your decisions because you no longer rely on guesswork. You rely on evidence that is right in front of you. Control is not about manipulating others. It's about mastering yourself in response to others. When you can read people without them saying a word, you don't overreact to falsehoods. You don't fall into traps of deception. You don't get carried away by flattery. Instead, you stay composed, steady, and intentional. Control means you decide how to respond rather than letting circumstances control you. By understanding others deeply, you learn how to protect your energy, how to conserve your focus, and how to move strategically instead of emotionally. This mastery also brings confidence. When you trust your ability to read people, you don't second, guess yourself as much. You walk into rooms knowing that you'll catch signals others miss. You hold conversations knowing that what isn't said is just as valuable as what is said. You build relationships from a position of strength because you understand the real dynamics at play. That kind of confidence radiates without arrogance, and people feel it the moment you enter their presence. It also creates freedom. When you can see through pretenses, you are no longer chained by the opinions or manipulations of others. You don't waste energy trying to figure out who is authentic and who is pretending. You already know that knowledge frees you to invest your time and attention where it matters most. It frees you from unnecessary drama, from wasted opportunities, and from the trap of trusting the wrong people. Mastering this art becomes your silent armor, your invisible guide, your hidden strength. And with power, clarity, and control, your influence grows naturally. People listen when you speak, not because you demand it, but because they can sense that you see deeper than most. They feel that you're not easily deceived, not easily swayed, not easily broken. That presence alone commands respect. It's not loud, it's not forceful, it's quiet strength. And it all begins with the ability to read people without them ever saying a word.